let's now shift focus over to another story that we are tracking this hour. Now remember, on Tuesday evening, Prime Minister Modi met with members of the 7 multi-party delegation of MPs upon their return. This after they've articulated India's stand on Pakistan-sponsored terrorism and New Delhi's response to the same. Interestingly, this meeting lasted for close to 2 hours. Prime Minister Modi is learned to have listened to experiences shared by MPs. Many of them included Congress, in fact, MPs cutting across party lines like Congress MP Dr. Shashi Tharoor, NCP SP MP Supriya Sule, former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Ghulam Nabi Azad and DMK MP Kanimoi as well. Prime Minister had suggested that such endeavours could be institutionalised in future as well. Remember, the multi-party delegations were initiated to counter global misinformation and highlight India's zero-tolerance policy, especially when it comes to Pak-sponsored terrorism. But soon after Prime Minister's meeting with the all-party delegation members, Congress MP Jairam Ramesh has launched a sharp, scathing attack on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He repeatedly asked him to conduct an all-party meeting and hold a 2-day discussion in the upcoming monsoon session in the Parliament. And that's not all. Mr. Ramesh also asked why perpetrators of the Pahalgam terror attack are still at large. At a time, India's efforts at multinational forums are focused on exposing Pakistan as the aggressor, are consistent attacks by members of the India alliance denting India's message of unity? And should parties have prioritized national interest over scoring political points? We'll deep dive into that in just a bit. And with that, let me in fact bring in one of our esteemed guests today. I'm joined in by BJP MP Mr. Rajiv Pratap Rudy, who's joining us live on the broadcast. Many thanks to you, Mr. Rudy. For all our viewers, I'd like to inform them that you were part of an all-party delegation that visited Qatar, South Africa, Ethiopia and even Egypt. But to begin with, what was Prime Minister's message as you interacted with the multi-party delegations yesterday?
Well, it was an informal meeting with the Honorable Prime Minister, and all the members, most of them attended the evening tea with him, and the discussions were very candid, and almost everyone, I think he spent more than an hour and a half with us, and almost everyone he met in person across the table and shared his views on the subject, and he took the views of each and every one. And he gave his own inputs. It didn't look like politics at all. It looked like as if a family had got together to discuss issues which they had carried across the world to the nation, and then come back to say, like, look, this is what everyone feels. And the outcome was very, very positive. And we were all, whether it was the opposition or ruling, we were almost everyone was on the same page, and the Prime Minister also felt that the delegation had done an extraordinary job going across the world. And the best part was this all-party delegation. Apart from being an all-party delegation, the delegation was in itself very heavy. Most of them were senior cabinet ministers, senior diplomats, members of parliament of all shades across the country, all political parties, and of course faces who are recognized in India, whether it is in the ruling party or it is in the opposition party. So I think, but the best part is the Prime Minister did share very important aspects about global partnership, how the world is perceiving threat, and we almost felt that he was talking our voice, which we have voiced across the country, across the world.
Mr. Rudy, let's now talk about all those countries that you visited that included Ethiopia, Egypt, parts of Southeast Africa and Qatar. Primarily Qatar, even Ethiopia and Egypt are countries with a sizable Muslim majority. How have these nations responded on the issue of Pak-sponsored terrorism?
So you're talking in particular about Qatar, or in particular about Ethiopia, or in again about Egypt. Of course, South Africa doesn't have a Muslim population. So these were the 4 countries which we visited. An aspect which we brought to the knowledge, which almost most of the people across the world have not realized it, or maybe occasionally failing to recognize, that India, with a population of 1,500, 400 million people, we have the second largest Muslim population of the world. Now, this fact that they are a part of our own system, they are a part of the society, they are fully integrated, they are a part of the overall setup, whether in administration, policing, business, or social life. Now, this aspect, so this completely neutralized the aspect of Muslim concept. And for them also, like countries like Ethiopia or for that Egypt, they have their own set of problems, and they're not from people from outside.
All right.
And so for them, terror was a defined word. And when it came to terror, they said absolutely no compromise on terror. That is one thing which they were very clear about. So terror sans religion, terror sans about language, color. So they said terror is terror, and we all have to get together to fight it. So this aspect, what you said to just now, I mentioned about Muslims populated country, I did not see at all. And they have high respect for the Prime Minister, they have high respect for the nation. And things which we hear back home absolutely did not figure in any of the countries which we visited. Possibly the question which you are asking did not figure at all in most of these countries which we visited.
Mr. Rudy, when you were in Addis Ababa, you said nobody is in Pakistan's favor. I want to ask you, at this moment and the current geopolitical climate, how true is that, given that leading global powers like the United States and China are not just supporting Pakistan? In fact, US has invited Field Marshal Asim Munir to Trump's military parade. The UN has appointed Pakistan as a chair and vice chair of 2 anti-terrorism committees. So how true is the claim that you made?
Well, this is something which is very global. And when it comes to nation one-to-one, I don't think US, when they have talks with India, they said we support terror. The world economic diplomacy, the world power diplomacy is something from what we went for. This was specific to the Pahalgam attack. This was specific to Pakistan being the perpetrator of terror. This was specific to the Pakistan's regular infiltration through terrorists in India for last 50 years. So this was nothing to do with the geopolitical situation. It was one-to-one, and every country agreed that killing and slaying of innocents, especially men in front of the children and women, is unacceptable. So I don't think we have to connect the overall geopolitical situation, whether it's America, whether it is China, whether it's for that matter NATO, any countries. We just have to talk one-to-one what they felt and what we had to say about Pakistan, and whether they were in agreement to this fact that Pakistan has been, if Osama bin Laden was found in Abbottabad in the backyards of a military camp, what proof does the world require? They all recognize all these aspects, 9/11 attacks and all. So they are not unaware people. They understand terror is something which they have to fight unitedly.
Mr. Rudy, it's barely been 24 hours since Prime Minister had that interaction, but Mr. Jairam Ramesh of the Congress Party has again repeated some demands of the Congress Party. Of course, one of them being that there should be a special parliamentary session addressing Operation Sindoor and also talking about the failures of Operation Sindoor. How do you respond to the demands that are now coming in by, say, Mr. Ramesh particularly?
So the question is Jairam Ramesh on the same page with the people who went across the world? And I think there is an issue there, because Jairam Ramesh in the initial stages, maybe a loss of identity, maybe his own position in his party. But if I'm not mistaken, there were a couple of members, senior members with me in the delegation as a part. I would not like to mention the name to be specific about it. And there were a large number of people from the TMC, whether it was from the Congress Party or maybe any political party, from the NCP and so forth and so on. There wasn't any dissenting voice. The problem is, the dissenting voice which you talk about is about individuals. It's not, I don't think they are political parties or they are the people who have this voice is being recognized nationally or internationally. They have their politics, their question of survival, or maybe individual question of survival for individuals who have to make noise to be relevant in politics. So possibly the gentleman you mentioned, he is a major struggle in surviving in politics, and he has to make comments. Whether comments are vetted or not vetted, we could see it from the first day.
Okay.
Some people do play a spoiler in politics. I don't have to comment about opposition or the political parties.
Okay. It's interesting, Mr. Rudy, you say that these are dissenting individual voices and perhaps not the opposition on a whole. Because given that Mamata Banerjee has questioned the diplomatic outreach on one hand, on the other hand, you had TMC's Abhishek Banerjee accompanying the multi-party delegation. Similarly, Dr. Tharoor has defended the nation contrary to the Congress party line. Is the I.N.D.I.A alliance fractured yet again over national unity?
You see, end of the day, my own perception is we can be talking things here back home. But what I saw of all these political parties, or what I read, or what I met and talked, or what the feedback which I got, all were on the same page as far as India was concerned. And that is important for me. We can come back home, we can play politics, we can talk about it, but what matters is what was the positioning at the international level. And I think we are proud of all political persons from all political parties who represented India in these 7 delegations. And that is the strength of Indian democracy.
All right, many thanks to you, Mr. Rudy, for joining in on CNN News 18. It was a pleasure speaking to you. And with that, we open the debate today. The question being, is I.N.D.I.A against India? And let me introduce our guests tonight. I'm joined in by Tuhin Sinha, who's the BJP national spokesperson. Also joined in by Mr. Salman Soz, who's the spokesperson for the Congress party. Many thanks to you, Mr. Soz and Mr. Sinha, for joining in. Mr. Soz, I want you to share with us what are the exact demands of the Congress party. Every day there's a new demand being posed, but share with us, because today we heard some very significant demands being shared by Mr. Jairam Ramesh, and today he's also called the entire multi-party delegation a diplomatic failure, talking about how US has invited the Field Marshal, Mr. Asim Munir.
Well, I think the demands, there are no real demands. Basically, what we've been saying to the country is that we've had a very serious conflict. Before that, we had a massacre of innocent people in Pahalgam. And I think as a country, I think it is important for all of us to understand why Pahalgam happened, how did it happen, how did those terrorists manage to get there to kill those innocent families, innocent people, leave 26 innocent families in shock and despair? And then after that, what are the things that we have done as a country, and how effective have we been? Those are the kinds of things that we really must discuss, because we have to avoid mistakes of the past. And then we have to see what kinds of things worked, and we have to see what kinds of things did not work. And the only way we can do that is by having a serious discussion where the entire political spectrum gathers and has a discussion. But what we see, unfortunately, is that is not how the ruling party sees these kinds of requests from the opposition. We had asked for a joint session of Parliament. That did not happen. We feel that the Prime Minister would rather talk to YouTubers or just have a monologue on national television and have filmy dialogues, but not have a substantive, serious discussion in Parliament. And by the way, did we not, at the end of the Kargil war, did we not have a Kargil review committee? Did we not table that a report in Parliament? We did. At this time also, we need to table something similar. Of course, if there are sensitive things, we will redact them, we will not make them public, but the public must know that they are secure, that they are safe, and that India's national interest is
Okay,
protected. Those are the
thank
kinds
you
of
for
things we want to
reiterating
discuss.
those demands. Tuhin, how do you respond to the demand for not just a parliamentary session, but also a review committee, one that is on similar lines like that of the one that was constituted post-Kargil? There are also these insinuating attacks that this entire outreach has been a diplomatic failure, given that I'd like to also quote what Jairam Ramesh has gone on to share on X. He's just now shared that tweet where he's talked about how the entire outreach was a diplomatic failure, given that US has in fact extended an invitation to Field Marshal Asim Munir.
Well, good evening, Akansha. Good evening, everybody. I think the Operation Sindoor diplomatic outreach has been a remarkable success. There are many countries, Australia and Germany have most unequivocally supported India's stand, and our teams did not even go there. Of the places where we went, Colombia has revisited its stand from a pro-Pakistan stand. It has an pro-India stand. Places like Panama, many countries. You need to realize that the results of this diplomatic outreach cannot be measured in tangible terms, but the very fact that those countries want to expand their engagement from India from here on vouches for the success of this mission. Now, I don't know why Congress party has been particularly enamored of Pakistan in the last few weeks. Every time they launch an attack, they have a right to criticize the government, but by drawing a false equivalence with Pakistan, if US for whatever reason decides to invite Asim Munir, it should be none of our business, or it should be none of the business of the Congress party, because every time the Congress rakes it up, it actually plays into the hands of those people who want to keep India and Pakistan hyphenated, and that is the flawed legacy of the Congress party. When till 2014 they could not rid India of its forced hyphenation with Pakistan. We managed to do that. This is something which the Congress will never accept, will never give due credit to this government for. Now, when it comes to the demand for a special session of Parliament, you need to realize we were not averse to it. But when Rahul Gandhi, the most irresponsible, the most reckless, and the most juvenile leader of opposition, repeatedly plays into the hands of Pakistani media, and I don't need to give you specific instances, but I still can point out two specific instances. One, when he deliberately distorts the statement, a very innocuous statement of EAM, to make it seem that we informed Pakistan before attacking them, which was absolutely not the case. And number two, when he tries to convert a victory into surrender, the intentions of this opposition cannot be trusted. A person like Rahul Gandhi will come into the parliament, wanting to play into the hands of Pakistani media, and that would embarrass us further. As far as questions are concerned, there is nothing which has not been answered by the External Affairs Minister. If Mr. Soz has not been able to comprehend the answers of any questions, he has every right to ask, to take the phone and speak to Shashi Tharoor or to speak to Manish Tiwari. They will answer his questions. But don't pretend over here that the questions have not been answered. Because
Mr. Soz, how do you respond to that? Because you are talking at a time, MPs cutting across party lines have represented India, and that too in a unified stance. But what does it speak of a Congress party which has reached a new low when it came to, representing India's Prime Minister as a Gayab Prime Minister, that headless caricature? The External Affairs Minister was represented in a caricaturish stance, and it's in fact bordering on comedy. It's actually bordering on comedy. Supriya Srinath goes on to say that India stands isolated on the global stage. India has been insulted. Would you say that it's been an insult to India when the mandate was to clarify, not negotiate outcomes? This is not what we are saying. It is what Dr. Shashi Tharoor of the Congress party himself has said.
Well, first, let me just say that we are proud of the opposition members who were part of these delegation in the sense that I feel, and I think all of our countrymen and women can see, that they were the ones who were, really leading this effort. I think they were the ones who came across as the most competent, ambassadors of India. So I'm happy that they showed that the BJP still does not have the bench strength to compete with the Congress and the opposition.
But Mr. Soz, you do agree that this was not a diplomatic failure.
Let me get to the real issues. there are tremendous diplomatic failures during this entire episode, and we have to be serious about this stuff. If we all come together and start congratulating each other and saying, "Oh, we did a great job. We did a fantastic job. Aren't we the best?" That is not in the national interest. That is not being patriotic. That is groupthink. And I've written about this. Now, as far as I can tell, this government had already outsourced manufacturing to China. Now they've outsourced thinking on foreign policy to trolls. This has become like the troll. There used to be a ministry. We used to say that in India, the 4 important ministries are Ministry of External Affairs, Defense, Home, Finance. But now we should add a 5th, Ministry of Troll Affairs, because that is what has happened to India's foreign policy, India's national security policy, because of their love for internet trolls.
Tuhin, how do you respond?
During this crisis, let me please finish. During this crisis, a few things happened that are astonishing. Except for Afghanistan and Israel, no country came out in defiance of Pakistan right away. And then Afghanistan was called by China, and Pakistan was called by China, and they made up. So right now, the only country...
Colombia had to reverse their stance. You don't think that is in itself a major milestone, Mr. Soz?
Please.
Mr. Soz, I just have a question. You just named Afghanistan and Israel, but Colombia reversing its stance on, in fact, condoling those who died in Pakistan. Isn't that a major diplomatic win for us?
No, it is not a diplomatic win when only Israel is supporting you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
When in the past, so many countries would come out. So many countries would come out and condemn Pakistan, or basically.
So you don't think that Islamic nations like Ethiopia, Qatar, Egypt, all of them standing like a rock by India's side, several OIC nations condemning Pakistan-sponsored terrorism is a diplomatic victory?
I don't know what briefings you're getting. Just by the way, these are the same countries that approved billions of dollars in IMF loans to Pakistan while the conflict was going on. All these countries, their directors did approve it. Did it not happen? It did happen. So please don't say that they're all standing strong. What matters is ultimately actions.
Before you respond to what Mr. Soz is saying, I think it's also important to keep in mind that when the Chief of Defence Staff says that we understood our tactical mistakes, we remedied and we rectified, perhaps that also piques the nation's curiosity, not just the opposition's, with regards to what exactly happened. What were these tactical losses?
Well, what the CDS said, only a very confident, only a very, self-assured CDS can say that. But more than what we listed out 11 PAF bases which have been destroyed. Pakistani dossier lists out 8 more. So at least the Congress party, which has often been enamored of Pakistan, should trust the Pakistani dossier over here. Pakistan today, is crying to the world about the losses it has suffered, but it is, this Congress party which wants to shift the focus away to imagined Indian losses which have been minimal. That's point number 1. Point number 2, I don't know whether Congress is selectively following international media, because the German foreign minister, along with Indian foreign minister, Jaishankar, had very unequivocally condemned terrorism emanating out of Pakistan. In fact, the Australian Deputy Prime Minister had recently said India had a very clear hand and achieved a decisive win. These are, you need to realize there are 2 things over here. Mr. Soz is talking about how many countries would condemn Pakistan during the UPA era. Even over here, after 22nd April Pahalgam attack, there were 23 countries which condemned the terror attack. But fact is that beyond the condemnation which India would receive even then, the UPA did nothing to avenge that act of terror. We have done something remarkable, and therefore many countries in the world are taking time to come to terms with India's renewed vigor. Please try to understand that nobody likes to see a strong India. India is a very important country in the Indo-Pacific, and no country would easily give this, give India its share of glory. That is something which, if the Congress had been in power post 2014, would have understood these basics.
All right. How do you respond, Mr. Soz? Because the fact is that there's also a strong message being sent out to the world when India is standing united on the issue of terrorism. Let's not forget that our multi-party delegation was also a mixed delegation, which also had representatives from all faiths. And that in itself is a very strong message. But if you say that this is BJP's weakness because the government at the centre is incapable of defending the nation, and which is why they had to make it a multi-party delegation, then are you saying that Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao's government back in 1994 was as weak when they sent Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee to the UN to defend India back then on Kashmir as well?
In fact, I was going to mention that this was not the first time that such delegations have gone.
Right,
outside.
but you called it BJP's weakness, and was it Mr. Narasimha Rao's weakness back then?
No. I think you misunderstood, maybe deliberately. I was saying
you
that
said
the
it
members
right at the beginning.
Members of the delegation who did the most, the heavy lifting, clearly in the public domain. They're from the opposition, including from my party. So I think that just tells you about the bench strength. I'm not, I feel bad for the BJP on that front, but we are glad that we were able to contribute in the national interest. But there are serious, like I said, I think I don't really want to get into this whole tutu meme with the BJP. What we must really look at is, for this whole episode, can we learn some lessons? Can we understand what happened? Can we see what the good things were? Can we see what the bad things were? How can we strengthen ourselves? How can we strengthen our diplomatic efforts? Quite frankly, now we can say whatever we want in our little discussion here, but you really must read international media, and then you'll get a sense that the diplomatic effort has overall, India's standing has not been to the same level as we've had in the past. And now Tuhin may say that you did not seek revenge during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time, but let me remind him, because he may not know, or maybe he's forgotten, that it was after a lot of effort from the UPA government that Pakistan was put on the grey list by the Financial Action Task Force, and that had serious consequences. If you look at Pakistan's economy from 2008 onwards to now, and you see the difference between India and Pakistan now, Pakistan used to have a higher per capita income, and that has flipped. Those are the kinds of consequences, serious consequences Pakistan faced because of what the UPA government did, and then that was carried on by this government.
All right. I want to give closing thoughts to Tuhin. Salman, I gave you all right.
Very quick point. Very quick point. Sorry, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The Chief of Defence Staff spoke, and of course, we respect him. But speaking on foreign soil, not doing a briefing in the country first, I think that did not go well. I don't think that is the way we should be doing these things. That is why we need a Kargil
how do you respond to the burgeoning concerns of Pakistan winning the narrative war? Because remember, from the UN to the United States, backing coming in from China and even Turkey, there are burgeoning concerns. What gives them the confidence to increase their budget spending for defense, this at a time when the economy is in the doldrums?
Let me just first begin by reminding the Congress spokesperson, since he's waxing eloquent of the response post 26/11, let me remind him that exactly 7 months after 26/11, in July 2010, the then Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, had brought home the shame of Sharm el-Sheikh. And do I need to tell you what was Sharm el-Sheikh? He gave permission to Yusuf Raza Gilani to investigate the imagined role of India in fomenting trouble in Balochistan. So that is how we used to react. You need to realize, as I have repeatedly mentioned, that India today has set a new terror deterrence paradigm for the world. So the world will take its time before unequivocally supporting this move. But yes, we have received support from all our trusted allies, be it Japan, be it Australia, be it Israel, be it Germany. And about the loan the confidence that you're talking about, Pakistan increasing their defense. This is a country which is very confident about its begging abilities. This is a country which has very low self-esteem. So if it hopes that, it will continue to beg and, maybe seek sympathy this time, that again will be short-lived. My only larger point with which I want to end is, in 1994, when P.V. Narasimha Rao had to send a delegation to Geneva, he could trust India's leader of opposition. We would have wanted as much to trust India's leader of opposition today, but India's leader of opposition today is an extremely slippery, unreliable guy who cannot stand up for national interest, and that is something which should concern, people even within the Congress party. What this diplomatic outreach has done is that it has achieved certain goals even within the country. It has segregated the few nationalist voices in the Congress party from the majority of those who cannot act in national interest today.
Salman, many have in fact asked that question. Why hasn't the Congress party as unequivocally condemned Pak-sponsored terrorism as it's demanding for this special parliamentary session?
That is a ridiculous thing to say. The Congress party from the very beginning, April 22, if I'm not mistaken, we came out fully in support of the government. And by the way, a Congress Working Committee resolution, supporting our armed forces who were going into harm's way. So please don't spread these stupid things, because nobody believes this stupid stuff.
Well, I mean, it is members of your party that who are coming out and talking.
No, I'm telling you, with the Congress Working Committee, the Congress Working Committee is the highest political body in the Congress party. That is the official stand. That
all
is
right, I'm sure we will agree unanimously that this is going to be India's lone fight. Israel has never begged for support, and so perhaps even India doesn't need that kind of support at the moment. It is going to be India's doctrine against terrorism alone. Many thanks to you, Tuhin and Salman, for joining in. And with that, it's a quick wrap from I.N.D.I.A. Thank you so much for watching The Right Stand. Up next is Brass Tacks with Zakir Jacob.